Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to replace this original 171-year-old window on an old Victorian. So with that, let's get right into it. Alright, quickly taking a look at this window from the inside, you can clearly see that the paint is chipping and pulling away everywhere. The seals around the entire end of the window are clearly rotted and not doing so well, and you might even be able to tell that the bottom of the window is physically thicker than the top because the glass has slowly flowed over the 171 years that this has been sitting here. This window is far past its prime, and it's so drafty at this point that you can pretty much feel the full breeze even with this thing fully closed. So it is in desperate need of replacement, but before we make a mess doing that, the first thing we're going to do is seal off this area by moving everything we can out of the way, and then trying to seal all of this debris in by putting a layer of plastic tarp over the top of this and sealing up the edges with duct tape. Really take your time to make sure all the gaps are fully sealed, otherwise dust will pour through those and into the house, and I don't know what kind of 1850 plague is in this window, but I'm pretty sure that's a cancer I don't want. Moving outside now, we're going to do pretty much the same thing where we're putting down a cloth to collect all of the debris so that it's not scattered in the front yard. And you can see we tried to use duct tape to stick it to the foundation, but this tape was too old and the foundation was far too dirty and quite frankly wouldn't stay, so we decided to weigh down the tarp using some high-tech logs, and that worked very well. As you can see, the exterior of this home was already being remodeled, so we went ahead and started to remove the siding. And while it's possible to replace the window without removing all of the siding, we also wanted to retape the bottom and sides of this window to give it a better moisture seal. And the other issue is that no company sold a window that was the exact same size of this because it is literally 171 years old. To get a direct size replacement, we would have had to order something custom, and that would have been 4 to 5 times the cost of one of the standard window sizes. For that reason, we had to strip this out to modify the framing slightly to fit that new window, but that also gave us a chance to put up a new moisture barrier under the new siding, which would really help with not only the moisture, but also keeping out any drafts. As you can see here, the old lining was literally disintegrating as we were working on it, and it took almost no force to knock that down. And after doing a quick double check to make sure that we had removed all of the nails because those would prevent the new siding from going up smoothly, we were then ready to start taking the framing off of the window. And despite this window literally predating Abraham Lincoln's presidency, it still took 2 adult men with hammers and a 4-foot crowbar to move some of those pieces off. They certainly don't build them like they used to, and this house is a living testament to that. However, we weren't fully confident that that statement also applied to glass panels, so we put this star made out of tape just to keep everything in place, or if everything did shatter the moment we took it out, which was a very non-zero chance, at least the big pieces would be held together and not scattered all over our feet or across the yard. And while the top pane came out without incident, we did run out of tape before finishing our star on the bottom half, but fortunately we were able to extract that panel as well without any additional damage. But let me just say that these window panes were insanely heavy. Old manufacturing methods just cannot compare with today's precision, which results in much thinner and therefore much lighter glass panels. We then removed some of the additional frame around this window with the hammers and crowbars, and before making too much of a mess, I noticed that the tape inside of the house was starting to release, so I went back and double checked that and added another layer because I did not want this prehistoric debris to be airborne in the house. That said, I apparently wasn't too concerned about getting it in my lungs that day because our next step was taking some measurements of the raw opening and then proceeding to dust out a bunch of debris from this opening without wearing any respiratory protection. Now, it might not matter for my younger brother with the amount of smoke that he willingly puts into his own lungs, but for me that is a bit of a concern. We then checked the level of the sill of this window before applying flashing tape while the senior citizens we were sponsoring as part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation started to cut boards for the new window framing. However, their walkers and wheelchairs couldn't quite make it over the debris pile from all the siding we removed. So we collectively as a team, and not at all on their behalf, decided it was best to clean up all of this debris next to give us a cleaner working area and to reduce the risk of stepping on any stray nails, which would give us not only tetanus, but probably every plague known to man over the last 200 years. And if you're wondering why my outfit doesn't scream demolition work, it's because my dad said that we'd have a 30-minute job of pulling the window out, that was all he needed help with, and that everything else was done. So if you take nothing else from this video, it's don't believe your dad if he tells you it's going to be a quick and easy job, and always plan for the worst case scenario with the highest level of physical labor and the highest level of danger. Next, we allowed the senior citizens to remeasure these openings because, you know, no, even though they watched us do it, our measurings were insufficient. Then 3 separate people tried to fit in the boards that were cut to the length measured by the 4th person, because each time one of us tried to put that board in, we said, no, that's way too long, and he said, no, that can't be right, my measurement is perfect, have the next person try. Then through our tribulations, we figured out he added half an inch because he didn't trust us to cut it straight. Because there's nothing quite like having full confidence and faith in your team. But having decided we didn't have the energy for the mutiny today, we recut the boards to the proper length, tacked in some spacer boards on the left side of this window frame, then used a nail gun to secure 2x4s to the sides of this opening, followed shortly by my brother trying to launch his construction modeling career. But since modeling clearly doesn't seem to be working out for him, at least he can do some remodeling. Oh, I hate myself. To finish out the new framing, we added a second 2x4 on both of the sides, we did a new sill on the bottom, and then a new board on the top as well, thereby reframing it to the new window size. Sir Limpsalot also sent me to his barn out back, which is filled with wood, to find new boards for the fascia and for the sill itself, and he did so by trying to describe a single piece of wood in the most vague terms possible in a barn filled only with wood, which as you can see resulted in multiple trips due to my clear incompetence and not the lack of organization of the materials, and certainly not due to the perfectly clear, absolutely descriptive and explicit description of what I was looking for and where it would be located. This did, however, give the senior citizens time to put the flashing tape on the bottom sill of this window, and then use a roller to really work it in and make sure that it had the best adhesion possible. We then took the new window, removed the wood blocks that were used for transporting it, hoisted it into place, and then tacked it down with a couple of nails. And by that I mean I had to stand there and support this thing while the senior center took their sweet ass time! Okay, to be fair, they were making sure the window was level both vertically and horizontally, and as I've already said, this entire window was lighter than a single one of those old panes, but due to the size of this thing alone, it was a little bit intimidating holding this big of a piece of glass up for so long. But after tacking everything in place, we added more flashing tape to the sides, rolled that in as well for better adhesion, and did the same thing along the top edge of the window. And finally, we put on the new layer of house wrap, attached it with a staple hammer, and then tucked it under the house wrap from the second story so that any water runoff would go over the face of this and not get up against the woodwork. And just like that, we were ready to clean up and this installation was complete. This new window adds a whole new life to this front wall of the house. It looks absolutely phenomenal and it insulates even better than that. Which got me thinking, maybe I should do a project like this on my own home. Is that foreshadowing? That might be foreshadowing. Anyhow, I want to thank you guys for watching and I will see you next time.